2 a.m. and she calls me 'cause I'm still awake. Can you help me unravel my latest mistake? Dropped a stitch about 17 rows behind me.
Hello, and welcome to episode 14 of the Sittin and Knittin podcast. I am your host, Dianna, also known as His Handmaid on Ravelry, on Flirt, and on Instagram. I am His Handmaid 1 on Twitter. Thank you for taking the time to download and watch this podcast. It's been a couple of weeks, and so I am feeling like it's my first time. Again, I get nervous every time I start the podcast. We'll try to get through this pretty quickly. I have a lot to share with you, but again, I try not to take up too much of your time, so I hope I don't ramble on and it goes for an hour. I don't think so. All of my children are home and around today, so you might hear ambient children noise in the background, and I'm trying to be okay with recording while I have eyes staring at me, little eyes, and so we will just get started with the show. First of all, I would like to say thank you for all of you who have left reviews in iTunes. I haven't had any new ones since December, but for the ones that I have had, I don't say it every podcast, and I do want to say thank you for the reviews that you have left. I would also like to say thank you for the private messages that I have received. Thank you for your participation in the forums, for introducing yourself in the threads, for just your camaraderie and your friendship. I do enjoy podcasting. I do enjoy that the communication and the community that it brings that I don't have here locally. And so sometimes I feel like I've been watching a lot of podcasts lately, and I feel like I'm an average knitter. I'm just an everyday average knitter. I'm not anything really intermediate, advanced, or spectacular. And so sometimes I wonder, what really do I have to offer? But even though I may not be that professional, or I think I just like to sit down with you, one friend to another. And so that is why I podcast. So thank you for spending time with me, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started with the show. Just hold on a second. Simeon, I need you to be quiet. I am very sorry. I'm trying to do the minimum amount of editing, so there won't be so many. I'm not sure if I'll have a lot of breaks in the segments, between segments and different things that I normally do, but it will make it easier for me to get a podcast out. As I said before, today is Thursday. It's March 28th, 2013, and I'm going to try to record. I know my recording has been sporadic. I think my life is kind of getting a little bit more calm, and I'm going to try to record every 2 weeks, and I was thinking to record as close to the 1st and the 15th as I could. It just seemed like good round numbers. I know that's how Brittany and Dana of Just One More Row try to do it, and just different ones maybe who have a bi-weekly schedule. So with my work schedule and with Easter and everything, the first falling on Monday when I have to work, I just thought I would go ahead and record now. So I hope you enjoy the show. We will go ahead and start with I do have minimum show notes. I have had these written for about a week because I've had so much to talk with you. So we will go ahead and start with what's in my hands. First, what's in my hands is the Piper's Journey shawl. I am knitting the Piper's Journey shawl, and I should start putting little markers from the last time I knit until from show to show to let you know my progress. If not for anything, then for myself, because I have not really gone back and looked to see where I was last time. But this is a pattern. It's a shawl pattern, or a shawlette, by Paula Emmons Beasley. who is the hostess of the Knitting Pipeline audio podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, and she does design beautiful shawls and scarves. And so this is one of her designs. I think she has about four. And it's called The Piper's Journey. I am knitting this out of, oh, it's Patton's DK. It's Patton's Classic Wool Superwash DK in the eggplant colorway. And I know it is showing up blue on the screen, and I regret that. When I first got up from my nap and decided I would go ahead and record today, it was beautiful sunlight streaming through the windows, and I thought it would be great to go ahead and record. But by the time I got everything together and went over my show notes again, it's an hour later, hour and a half later, so I don't have as much sunlight. But it is, if you can think of eggplant, the color of eggplant, that's the color it is. It's not blue at all. I'm sorry, I can't get it for you. But it's been easy. It's garter stitch so far. And now it's time to add on the knitted on lace border. And I think when you add that on, you're binding off at the same time. To tell the truth, I have not read that far in the directions. I did change it a little bit as far as I have more stitches than what the pattern calls for. It is a paid for pattern, so I won't say how many stitches I have or what the pattern calls for, but I have about, I think, 30 stitches or more. Really, I haven't counted it, or if I did, I put it on my Ravelry page and I have to go and look. But I think I have at least 30 stitches more than what the pattern called for because I wanted it to wrap around. I wanted a little more of a larger shawl. She said that you should have about a third of the yarn left to do the border. I have a third of the amount of yarn left to do the border. I have half of the amount of yarn. I had 5 balls of this, and it is 125 yards per ball. So what I did was I knit 2 balls, and then on the third ball I put it on my scale, and I wound off half of the I'm assuming this is 50 grams, but however much it weighed, I wound off half of it, and that's what I finished up with. And then I'm going to go ahead, because some of the pattern notes that I read on other projects said that they used a little bit more than a third, but also that was because some of them had increased the shawl size a little bit. So I'm hoping I have enough to finish the border. I will be devastated if I don't. So I'm really liking, it's garter stitch. I love garter stitch. At first, I was falling under the pressure that I even heard it on a podcast recently. It was an older podcast, but I recently heard it that garter stitch looks like that you're just a beginning knitter and you don't know how to knit. But I really like the fabric of garter stitch. It's a little bulky, but it's very suitable depending on what you want. So yeah, I've enjoyed it just fine. It was interesting enough with the increases. She has increases to have this little lacy border here. That was fun and interesting enough, and it's just been a good knit. This yarn is supposed to be DK, but it feels more worsted to me. It's heavier. I didn't swatch. I just went ahead and cast on with size 6 needles. I know I like the fabric of that with my knitting DK yarn on size 6 needles. But I'm thinking I wish I had gone up a couple of needle sizes because I didn't want it so dense. So I probably should have went up to a size 8 needle. But that's what I have there. On Paula's, I am trying to do this for the Knit Along and Diane of Knittables podcast. And I think it's either there or in Paula's group. Paula has a video, or on YouTube. on her blog. She has a video on how to do the knitted on border. I don't know if I need it or not. I have done a knitted on border before on a pinwheel shawl. I did a knitted on garter border. But I was going to look at the video before I started the border. So I've been this far for about 4 or 5 days and just have not taken the time to look at the video or look at the chart or start the border yet. So that is one thing. But I do, the yarn also, I want to say, it feels kind of rustic. It's kind of just rustic wool. It feels, it's not a merino wool. It's just kind of a rusticy, kind of rough feeling. You know how wool is, which I kind of like. I mean, I love wool. After trying to knit, if you've watched a couple episodes ago, I was trying to knit a sweater with um, city tweed, knit pick city tweed, and it has Donegal tweed and alpaca and wool, and just the properties of alpaca. Knitting with other material besides wool, um, just testing cottons and different things like that. Wool is my favorite to knit with. So I don't mind the rustic feel, but I do, hoping that it blooms and softens up with washing. Um, oh, another thing I wanted to say about that is I've been wanting to say this for a while and I keep forgetting. I weave in my ends as I go. I know a lot of people talk about weaving in ends and not wanting to do finishing work. Um, I usually, if I have something where I'm adding a new ball of yarn in, if there's a time where I'm resting from my knitting, if I've been knitting a lot and I need a rest, or if I know I don't have time, any kind of extra time that I have, maybe not to go through whole row, a whole row, I will take that time and take out my tapestry needle and weave in my ends. And that way I don't have a lot to weave in at the end. So I wanted to show you, I'm see if I can find where I wove in some of my ends and I cut the yarn, but I didn't cut it too close because I knew it was stretch foot blocking. I can't even find where I wove in some of the ends. So, but I did want to. Another thing about adding yarn, this is a superwash yarn, so you couldn't really do a wet splice join on it. Another thing that I've always done since beginning knitting is I just knit with it when you're adding in a new color or a new yarn. If it's the same color, I would just knit with holding two strands together and knit a couple of a couple of stitches, and then drop the old yarn and keep knitting with the new ball. That's all I've ever done. I know that if you are, hold on just a second. Sorry. Okay, I apologize for that. So I just add in, I just knit with the old yarn and the new yarn for a couple of stitches, and then I drop the old yarn and I continue with the new yarn and I just weave it in. So I haven't heard anybody saying that's how they add in yarn. So how do you add in yarn? If you could go under this episode show notes if you know something different or better, or if you have a way to share how you add in yarn. Do you usually weave in you as you go, or are you one that leaves a lot of ends to weave in? And I know, I mean, I have had some finishing where I've had ends to weave in, but on the whole, for the most part, I usually don't have a lot of ends to weave in. And like I said, I'll weave them in and I'll clip them, but not real close until after the blocking. So that's the Piper's Journey shawl. Next, I am working on the Little Sister dress, and the Little Sister dress is by Tora Design. I am sorry, I forgot the name of the designer. It's Tora Prosep Design, and I believe she is French. And this is the little sister dress that I am knitting. As I said before, I gave a couple of pictures to a friend at a baby shower gift and an IOU and told her she could pick which dress she wanted and I would knit it for her. And she said she wanted this dress and she would like it in this color if I could knit it for her. So I am knitting this out of Quince and Company's, I think it's Finch. I think it's Quince and Company Finch. It is in their sock weight yarn, and I am using my size 2.75 millimeter needles. This is how far I've gotten on it. So now I am 19 rows in, and I have to knit about 70 rows before I start the border. It's a fun knit. It was interesting and fun to do the top part. I believe there's going to be some button finishing work for the dress right here. But I don't know if you can notice, when I first started knitting this, I was knitting it flat and I was using 2.75 millimeter needles. Well, then I had to go into the round and I didn't have any magic loop or any DPNs in 2.75. So I ended up doing it in the round on size 3 needles. So maybe these first few stitches were knit flat and then we were supposed to join and knit in the round. And can you tell where right here the ridges are a little looser? It did make a difference going up just a quarter of a millimeter size, but that was all I had. So as soon as I felt like I had enough, I went back to the 2.75. I went to the local yarn store to get some needles and I hurriedly picked some Chalgoos. And I ended up, it said Chalgoo red. I thought I was getting Chalgoo lace and I ended up with these, the Chalgoo red. And I've had these before and I didn't like them, but I was using them for Magic Loop and I was either using it for Magic Loop or 2 Cirques and I didn't like them, but so far it's been fine. This is a 24-inch needle, 2.75 millimeters, and I have about not 200 stitches on here yet, and I'm really squeezing. Like I have to move and shove and move the stitches to get it around, and I really don't like to do that because I feel like I'm stretching the fabric. But I didn't want to continue with the 3 millimeter needles on the double points because of the fabric difference, and I didn't want to do to 180 something stitches between 4 double points. I think I did it, that would have been a lot. Yeah, that would have been a lot, and all I have is the 3 millimeter. So this is where I am. I went back to the local yarn store to see if they had size 16-inch. I know I'm only going to need the size 16. You increase this is a free pattern, you increase 1 stitch on each side, but it's every 7 rounds. So I'm thinking it's going to be another 21 or 28 rounds before I have enough for it to be comfortable around here. But what to do? I can't think of anything else to do. I am enjoying knitting it. It's been a lot of fun. I think it's real cute, and I think it'll be cute finished. I had a light bulb moment. I did not realize, because it was sock weight yarn, I didn't read it well on the website, and I assumed that it was superwash. It is 100% merino. It doesn't have any nylon in it, and it is not superwash. So this is a first-time mother. She's older. She's in her 30s. She's been married about 10 or 13 years, and they couldn't have children. I did call her sister-in-law and say, I just realized I was this far. I had gotten the whole yoke done. I said, I just realized this dress is going to be hand wash only. Do you think she'll do it? And she said yes. And I do believe, one child, she's a careful mother. I think she will go ahead and do it. But the more I'm thinking on it, I'm thinking, okay, it's almost April and I'm knitting a wool dress for a baby. I need to hurry up and finish it. With it being fingering weight, it'll be light. And I think if she wears like a short sleeve blouse under it, she can wear it for a while. Um, I found wool is, it's breathable. But you know, some people, I probably wouldn't mind putting it on the baby if it wasn't too hot because I used to put my babies in wool soakers. But I don't know what the mother's going to feel. Bottom line is I need to get this done and I need to get it done fast. So it's an enjoyable knit. I think I was going to tell myself I would knit maybe get half of this done before I start my border on my Piper's Journey. So let me see, is that all I wanted to tell you about that one? Um, I love the feel of the Quinson Company. I love my even my stitches look and the tension and everything. And it's not me or my knitting; it is the yarn. And so it's just excellent yarn. I'm just it's springy and it's it's really nice. I really like it. Um, And did I say 3.0? The other size that I used was 3.25. So I went from a 2.75 to a 3.25 millimeter. And that's where you can see the discrepancy there. So I'm kind of doing this as part of the knit along. I guess I can insert this here. We do have a knit along going on. And if you're not part of Ravelry, you can still be a part of the knit along. Just post your progress or your finished object on the blog underneath in the comments section. But it's called Array of Sugar and Spice Knit Along. And it started March 13th. And it will go until Mother's Day. And Araya was my daughter's name, and Araya passed away in January 2011. So kind of in memory of her and a happy spirit with spring coming and everything, I thought about the knit along to knit something, anything for a little girl. And it doesn't matter how little she is. She can be 6 months. She can be 16. It doesn't matter. But the special girl in your life, if you would knit something for her, um, post your ideas, post your pattern ideas, the yarn choices, your projects and everything. If you're on Ravelry, there is a thread there. There's one that will be just for finished objects, and then there's one for chatter. And I've enjoyed, some people, it's totally not a requirement because of privacy. You know, I understand, but some people have posted pictures of who they're knitting for, and a couple people posted that on Araya's birthday, and that was really sweet just to see pictures of different little ladies. Um, but we have one member, Charlene, who I believe is knitting for charity. And so that is wonderful. Halos of Hope is what she's knitting for. And so whatever you knit, just as long as it's a ray of sugar and spice, something for a little girl, I think that will be fun. So this is kind of what I'm knitting along with that. My next work in progress, I have 4, and I feel like I'm taking a lot of time, is my stockinette socks. This is knit out of Hiawassee Creek Dye Works, uh, and it is knit in their, I believe it's 75-25 sock base, and this is in the Willy Wonka colorway. I am knitting it on size 2.25 millimeter needles. You cannot see that it is a beautiful purple and brown. If you know anything about Willy Wonka, think of his purple coat, and that's what this is. It's not the blue that's showing up. I don't know why it's showing up that blue. If I have something that could change the color. It still looks blue. I really wish you could see. Maybe that's a little better, but it's a really deep purple and brown, and I'm really enjoying it. As you can see, I did go ahead and go back to double pointed needles. The these right here, I've been trying all kinds of double pointed needles. I used to, when I did double pointed needles, I used to really like the Crystal Palace. And then I started knitting on double pointed needles. Like my first or second project was a sock on double pointed needles. And I like the bamboo ones because they grip the stitches, or I was told they grip the stitches. Now lately I've been using the metal double pointed needles, aluminum, whatever, nickel plated, whatever you call them. And I find them just fine, and I even like them better. These right here, I believe, are the Chow Glue. The Chow Glue double pointed needles. And sorry, I don't have, excuse me, see if you can see that. I like the tip, and it's nice and pointy, but not too sharp, and I just really like them. So before I invest in a whole set, I wanted to try a few more, and I'll probably talk to you about that as I go along. I am on up to the heel on both of the socks. This is the other sock. I told you last time that I wasn't getting ladders with knitting inside out, but when I put it on the sock blocker to take a picture for my Ravelry page, I did notice I still have a little bit of lettering going on there. So I don't know what it is with me and Magic Loop and sock weight yarn, because I really usually don't get ladders any other kind of way. But I think I'm going to go back to double points. So here are both of the socks, and I am ready for the heel. I have not decided what heel I'm going to do. I know most people, when they do self-striping, they do the afterthought heel. I've been sleeping on it for a couple of days. I'm feeling a little lazy, like maybe I don't want to do the afterthought heel. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do a heel flap. I would like to try a heel flap toe up, or maybe I'll do a short row heel. I've been watching Knitting Blooms, and Tina on Knitting Blooms has an excellent, really nice short row heel tutorial, and she has a short row, a toe up sock with a short row heel pattern. I did purchase the pattern just to get the short row heel directions. I pretty much know toe up socks, but it's an excellent pattern. So I was thinking about doing that. My only hesitation is how the stripes are going to look, and is it going to make it look wonky, and if I'm going to care. And I think that's the whole reason for doing the afterthought heel. So I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with that. I have another pair of socks on the needles. I've gone a little sock crazy, and I think you all have seen these before. These are the Hermione's Everyday Sock, and they are knit out of Lorna's Laces Multi. And I can't remember the name of the colorway. I'm very sorry. I can't believe that I forgot to write this down. I love this pattern. I like stockinette because it is what they say is mindless. This pattern, it's pretty easy to memorize, and it's pretty easy to look at it and see where you are. I wouldn't say it was mindless, but what I like about it is that it just gives you just enough texture to keep it interesting. And it's very forgiving, because sometimes, like, I'll knit at school, I'll knit while I'm listening to children read. I knit everywhere that I can. And sometimes I forget whether I'm on a plain row or a pattern row. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's by Erica Luter. And so there have been times where I didn't kind of do the pattern the way that I should have, but you can hardly tell. I was going for a 9-inch cuff, but I was so just in a zen mode with knitting it. This, our 9-inch leg. The leg is actually 9.5 inches. I'm not going to rip it back. I'll just keep it the way it is. I'm knitting this on size 2.25 millimeter needles. I really like this yarn. Oh, if I can back up a little bit to the Hiawassee Creek Dye Works, I wanted to say that's an excellent yarn as far as how it feels. I wanted to see how it washes up, but it is very strong. I tried to break it and I couldn't. It was very hard to break it. A funny thing, I was knitting while I was reading to a little 6-year-old first grader, or he was reading to me and I was knitting while I was listening. He said, "What are you knitting?" I said, "A sock." And he said, "Oh, my socks aren't that fuzzy." So I didn't think that, I never thought about it before. The sock doesn't look fuzzy at all. Actually, it's pretty smooth. But anyway, he may have thought it was thick or I don't know. But he's like, "My socks aren't that fuzzy." I said, "Oh, they don't sell socks like these at Walmart," or something like that. I can't remember what I said. But anyway, that was funny. So, I'm ready for the heel here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do that short row heel. But I started working on the second sock. That's how I prevent second sock syndrome. I tried two socks on two circs at one point and really didn't like it. I like to travel with my knitting too much and it was too fiddly. So I just did this last night, started at about midnight, and um, it took me up until 3 o'clock, I think. I don't remember. Um, so this is the second sock, and I will knit, and when I get them both to the same place, I'll do one heel and another heel, and then I'll do one foot and another foot and a toe and another toe. So I know a lot of people do that. I want to point out that I did at my local yarn store yesterday pick up some collage square needles because she didn't have any 2.25 millimeter needles and metal needles in another. So these are the square collage. I like them well enough. They were pretty expensive. They were like $15 for the set, which is the same as the carbons. Um, but I wanted to go ahead. My biggest fear was I didn't want it to change the gauge of my knitting. She said they're not supposed to. I did ask on Plurk and a couple people said that it does change your gauge a little bit. So, I've only knit a few rows on it, so I'll have to see. But they seem fine. They're a little more blunt than what I'm used to, but they feel fine. I actually like how they slid and everything. So those I'm liking real well. This one I started this one on my Knitter's Pride Carbons needles. And I've heard so many good things about this carbon material metal tip that I wanted to go ahead and give them a try. When I first got them, I yanked them out the package and put them on this sock in progress. And this is 2.25 millimeter. And I didn't like it. It just wasn't sliding good. I felt like that, not on all the needles. Yes, I can feel it on this needle. It's not smooth right here between the tip and the join to the carbon part. I just felt a little bit of a groove, but enough that I didn't like it. And so I thought, I'll put them down, put them away, and try them again. So, I'm switching needles around, trying all different kinds of needles. And so I cast on this sock with that needle. And I knit a few rows, and it just was not working for me. So, my post office has been busy because I've been ordering a lot of needles. I went ahead and went back to, I have Knitter's Pride Supernova. And these are a little heavier than the Chalgoos, and maybe a slightly not as pointy. I'm not sure. It's about the same. But they are a little heavier. They're not as lightweight as the Chalgoos. And so that I switched back to these because that's what I was using. Now, they were a little sticky to me, squeaky. I just didn't feel like my needles were sliding good, and so I kind of put a question out on Plurk. What can I do to make my metal needles more slippery? And someone suggested soap and water, so I did soap and water, and they are perfect. They're not too slippery, but they are perfect. So I really, really like that. I don't know if I need to do that with these yet. I've only knit with these about 4 rounds, and I really haven't been able to tell. But yes, those are those two projects. Um, let's see, is there anything else I wanted to tell you about those? So I will be doing the short row here with those. I love this yarn. It would be, I love the way it feels and everything. It would be a favorite of mine if, the only thing I don't like about it is the color stripes are, it's not really a stripe. The color changes are just a little bit too short. Like it may be 6 stitches. There's green, purple, and yellow in here, but it's like very, very short. Maybe it's not even an inch because I think it's only 6 stitches. And so that kind of keeps it interesting though, as far as when I'm knitting and I'm looking at it and I know, okay, here I'm on green and purple's getting ready to pop up. And so it keeps it interesting that way. This looks very, very pretty. I think I would get more if I wanted a variegated type yarn. I don't know if I consider this variegated. Maybe it's variegated. But that's the only thing. I thought I was getting stripes. It's called Lorna's Laces Multi, and when it was in the hank, it was hanging at the local yarn store under their self-striping yarn. And in the hank, I really couldn't tell because I don't have a dyer's eyes, that the color repeats were going to be too short until she started winding it. And someone in the shop asked her if, if this was self-striping, and she said it had short stripes in it. So that is the only thing. It's really fine and it's really pretty. I guess if I did not have in my mind that it was going to be a striping yarn, it wouldn't be the slight disappointment that I have, but that is what it is. So I'm just keeping it safe in this little net bag that I got. I did order a Lolo bar and a couple of things from Barmaids, and so I'm just keeping that in there. And let's see. Well, I think that's it for my works in progress. I do not have anything out of my hands, which would have been the first segment. So I guess we can go ahead and go on to aspirations, what I'm aspiring to. There is a couple of things that I want to knit. One thing I want to knit is, aspiration means what I have queued, and what I want to knit is socks for my husband. That's one thing that I want to knit. He's been asking and asking and asking. He's very inspired when he sees Wolf Photo knitting, and when he sees Darren from Knitting in Circles and Wolf Photo from Wolf Farms. When he sees their knitting, he's like, I want to try it again. I really do. And I told him I don't feel like I'm as good of a teacher as maybe Dawn and Amy. They're more experienced than I am. I did try to teach him. He got frustrated with it. I don't know. But he said he wants to learn again, so I will try. But in the meantime, he is asking a lot for socks. So I did purchase some Barocco when I was at the local yarn store. I did a DK weight of Barocco, and I think it's half wool and half nylon. And I was going to make him some boot socks out of that. So that's one thing that I'm aspiring to. Another thing that I'm aspiring to that I want to knit, I don't know, this will probably be my next pair of socks for myself. I have tons of sock yarn. Not tons, but I have enough that I probably don't need to purchase anymore. But I did want to get this kit and do the watermelon socks. I just thought they were very cute summer knit. I don't have any, I will probably wear it with a green dress, but with the beads and everything, I just thought it was so neat and so cute. And this pattern is by Wendy Gale, and she is one of the hostesses of Yarn on Tap, and her shop is the Knitters Brewing Company Sockaholic shop. And for the kit for $24, you get the pattern and you get the yarn and the beads and the contrast color and all of that. So that is one of the things I'm queuing. So for my husband's socks, I will probably be doing black socks, and I will probably do the Hermione pattern or maybe just a rib pattern. I'm not sure yet. But I've heard a lot about how fun it is to knit sport weight socks. That was Barocco. I believe it was sport, not DK. Barocco sport weight sock yarn. So I'm looking forward to knitting him some sport weight socks. Another thing that I'm aspiring to is I was gifted last year, actually this past October, some hand spun gradient yarn, pink yarn by Dianna. She's on Ravelry. Her name is Dianna Braidburn, and she gifted it to me as in memory of Araya, and it has little sparkles in it. And I used some of it in my Hope shawl, but I have a good amount left. I haven't even weighed it yet, and I didn't even get to a color change. I think it has 3 different colors in it, and I didn't even get to one. So I have a good amount of it left. And I wanted to go ahead as a thank you and appreciation, knit that hand spun up. So I was thinking of either doing the Lacy Bactus shawl. And the reason why I thought about this shawl is because I saw Dorothy from the Mommy Knitter podcast knitting it, and she was knitting it out of hand spun, and she said it was good to use with hand spun. It kind of hides, the hand spun that may have slubs or different things like that. It's a good, nice, lacy pattern that would kind of hide that and at the same time accentuate the beautiful properties of hand spun. So I was thinking of doing that, but the more I think about it, so what you do is you increase in the lace pattern until you have half the amount of yarn that you have, and then you start to decrease. I don't know how that would look with a gradient. Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it. If you have any ideas, let me know. The other one that I'm thinking of is either between that one and the TGV high speed. I think TGV is a high speed train in France. It's a high speed train. And this shawl is knit using the same technique where you would knit, because I want to use all of the yarn, where you would knit until you have half of the amount of yarn that you have, and then you would start to do your border, which is a lacy border. And I've seen a lot of people do this shawl. There's 1,200 patterns, and it looks like it's a really fun shawl. And so I wanted to see if I could find out. Orient Express. It means fast train, or it's about a fast train. So anyway, it has a ruffle, and I believe it's garter stitch, and it's just a really pretty shawl. And so I thought it's either between those two that I would pick which I want to do. So I will cast on this shawl after I finish the Piper's Journey. After I finish the baby dress, I will cast on, well, first I'll say after I finish on the socks, I will cast on my husband's sock. Then after I finish another sock, I'm thinking I only want to do one pair of socks on the needles at a time. So after I finish these socks, I'll knit my husband's socks, and then I'll probably I'll try to only have one pair of socks on the needle at a time. We'll see. But for myself, my gift to myself when I finish knitting the baby dress will be to knit a sweater for myself. I'm ready now. I had so much sweater fail with trying about 3 different patterns, and that's a episode or 2 ago, that I really wanted a sweater, but then again I didn't even want to see a sweater. So I have been watching Amy Herzog's Knit to Flatter class on Craftsy. It's totally worth the money. It was recommended to me through watching Chrissy, who is Manic Pearl, who is the hostess of the Snappy Stitches podcast. And it's really, I'm not even gotten into the knitting yet, just the fitting and measuring and things. It's really a great class so far. Amy is beautiful and talented, and I'm really enjoying watching it. And so I'm kind of doing what Chrissy said she did. She went through the first time and just watched it, and then the second time I think she's going to go through again and take notes and things like that. Amy does suggest for a well-fitted sweater, and she has her reasons that you should knit it bottom up with set-in sleeves, and she talks about sleeves giving stability and different things like that. And I'm listening and I'm learning. But what I already had in my queue was Mr. Green Jeans, and this is a free pattern on knitting. And I've been wanting to knit this for a while, and I really like it. It is knit from the top down, and it has a rib and cable pattern up to, well, you knit stockinette stitch to below your bust, and then in the waist it has the rib and cable pattern. And so I really like it. I've liked it for a while, and I was wanting to knit it. I went ahead and ordered Fibra Natura Sensational. And this is in the crocus colorway. Let's see. It's a little more, I wish it was that color, but now that it's here, it looks a little more pink than that. Maybe that's more true. It still looks lavender on the, because my iPad case is pink, but it's looking lavender here. So I have ordered this to make it out of the, I wear a lot of lavender or light purple and different things like that. It's my color. But the more I'm thinking about it, I'm not I ordered this specifically for Mr. Green Jeans, but now I'm thinking maybe I would want it in a gray, and I do think I have some gray yarn upstairs, a gray or a black, and save this for something else. So I have this downstairs in my basket to swatch with, but I may trade it out for a gray or a black for Mr. Green Jeans. So that is what I'm aspiring to. And I guess we can go to my goodie bag. I have made lots of yarn purchases recently, and you will see those as you see my projects. But one thing I kind of had a goodie wanted to show you was a wow at the same time. And maybe it's because, you know, I thought about when I was getting this together, I said, well, maybe I just don't order yarn enough or order from Etsy enough. But I ordered some yarn from Knittin Fiber Creation, and that's Tammy. And she is on Etsy. Knittin Fiber Creations. It's Knittin Fiber Creation, Etsy.com. And I ordered some of her Tough Love sock, which is 80% merino superwash and 20% nylon. It's approximately 430 yards. And this is the night bus base, and it's Harry Potter inspired, and the colorway is called Night Bus. But I just want to say the way it came was a wow to me. Just the bag, if you can see the bag, I didn't want to take it out of the bag until I showed you. Just the bag. She had a little handwritten note in here. I don't know. Things like this makes me want to go back to the shop again and again. So now I can open it. I've had it for at least a couple of weeks, and I forgot to show it to you all last time. Excuse the crinkling. But I wanted to show you just all of that just made me more happy when I opened it. I believe this is self-striping yarn, and it's purple, not blue, purples and yellows and grays, and I absolutely love it. If anybody has any idea how I can make my yarn show true to color better, I would love. This is like the same eggplant color as the Piper's Journey shawl. So it's eggplant, and then it's yellow, and then it's gray, and I love it. So now that I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, oh, I know I said I wanted to knit the watermelon socks, but I would love to get that on the needles. after my husband's socks. So that's kind of something out of my goodie bag. That's a wow. This too, I wanted to say this feels so nice. I don't know if anybody's ever used the Fibra Natura before. And let me see what the content is. I believe it is a wool. I've ordered it from Webs, and I think it's wool. Or it might be a wool blend, but I don't think I brought any. Oh, it's 100% superwash merino wool. So, lovely, lovely stuff. So, I just don't think, now that I see it, I thought it was a little more lavender. I don't think it's suited for Mr. Green Jeans, so that is what I'm aspiring to. We did talk about the cow. I wanted to make a couple questions or a correction. So we'll talk about what's on my iPod. Actually, on my iPad, I've been listening and watching podcasts on my iPad, and I also take it and plug it in when I'm traveling and listening to it. I used to listen to a lot of audio podcasts on my iPod, but my iPod died. And so I've been behind on my audio podcasts, and some of them fell off of my radar. And, because I was just watching video podcasts on my laptop. But since I got my iPad for Christmas, I've been listening to more audio again while I'm traveling. I used to listen to it a lot when I walked last summer and different things like that. And so, what's on my iPad? So, I guess to say all that to say is I've been listening to more audio podcasts. And last episode I mentioned Marley Bird's podcast, and I think I just said the name of it was Marley Bird, but actually it's called the Yarn Thing podcast. It's called Yarn Thing Crochet and Knit Podcast, and it is on Blog Talk Radio, but I can get it through my Downcast, and I'm not sure if you can get it through iTunes, but I believe so. And the hostess's name is Marley Bird, and I think she's very popular. I think she's done classes at Stitches and different things like that. On my little Downcast photo, it says, where it shows you the artwork for the podcast, it said Marley Bird, and so I just assumed that was the name of the podcast. So I wanted to make that correction. So another audio podcast I have been listening to for a while and fell off my radar was the Yarniacs. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this last summer when I first started podcasting, but it's hosted by Gail and Charlene, and they are friends that live in California, and I love listening to their podcast. They're very prolific knitters. They do a good job as audio podcasters in explaining everything from color to texture to whys and why nots to what they're doing, what they're wearing. They knit lots and lots of sweaters, and so I love to hear about that. And so I really enjoy their camaraderie, and they're really easygoing, and I was really excited. Charlene even joined our Ravelry group, and so that was kind of like a fangirl moment for me. But they're really sweet girls. So hopefully you already know about the Yarniacs, but if you maybe have never heard, that's what's on what I'm listening to, and it's one of my favorites. Another one that I just found, it's called The Giving Flower, and it's hosted by Kimberly, who is Kimber Lolly on Ravelry, and she has her children podcasting with her every now and then. I think they sit with her. Her daughter is maybe 8 or 9, and is starting to knit very, very well for 8, 9-year-old. And I can't remember how I found this podcast, but I've really been enjoying it. I've been going back and watching, starting from episode 1 and watching the episodes. She lives in Germany. She's American, and she lives in Germany, and she just is a beautiful knitter and very inspiring, and I really, really like it. So I don't think that she has a regular podcasting schedule. I'm not sure. She's a mom, and she works and different things like that, and I can understand that. But she has about over 30 episodes. So give that a listen if you haven't listened to that one yet. I wanted to go ahead and insert here another correction. I had talked last podcast about considering purchasing Alana Dacos's book, Botanical Knits, and I think I said for $18 you could get the hard copy and the digital in a pre-order, and that's not correct. For $18 you can get the ebook only. For $22 plus tax, you can get the hard copy. When she releases it in May, she'll send it to you, but you get the digital for free. So for $22 plus tax, you're getting hard copy and digital. So I wanted to kind of correct that. And I think that's all for what's on my iPad. As far as a weight loss tip, I wanted to say I've been inspired by Sock Bunny and Denise of the Knitting Den to go ahead and try Weight Watchers again. I did do Weight Watchers for probably 2004, and I lost like 30 pounds in 3 months or 4 months or something. I got lazy because it does take a lot to track every day and count and look it up and different things like that. And when I eat what I want, I don't have to think about it. So to be mindful of what I'm putting in my mouth takes effort. And I think I had 6 children. I was homeschooling. It just didn't take the time. Those are excuses, not reasons. So as I've been going on to more healthy eating, more clean eating, eating more living foods and things like that, I know all of that. But the reason why I went ahead and joined Weight Watchers again is because I need the accountability, and I just need to, I know, pretty much I'm doing well with green smoothies and juices and live living foods and more of a vegan type of way of eating, and I know more healthy, but to actually put it into practice, I needed the community. And so I'm trying Weight Watchers. I am going to the meetings. I know some do it online, but I know the program and I've worked it before. It's new. It's different than what I had before, but it's same in a lot of ways. And so I'm going ahead and trying that for a while just to get myself into a groove. If I'm not sure how long I will actually continue to attend the meetings all the time, but that is what I'm doing. So my tip, track food. It does make a difference. They say 50% of people who track lose more than the other 50% who don't track. So tracking food is a tip. I don't know if we've ever writing down everything that you put in your mouth. Even if you don't write down points, or even if you don't necessarily write down the calories, if you start writing down and looking at what you're putting in your mouth, every single thing, that will help you. Writing the calories down helps more, especially if you're on a if you're setting yourself a calorie limit, then writing down the calories. But even without writing down the calories, another thing is writing down how you feel. And another thing that has helped me, I'm not a journaler, so I personally have not written down how I feel when I'm eating or after I eat or when I'm hungry or different things. But writing down the times that I ate the food is really an awareness thing for me, because when I was juicing, I was on the juice fast and I wasn't taking anything in after 7 o'clock. I felt the results and saw the results. So just being mindful of how often I'm eating, when I start eating and when I stop eating is a good tip. Another thing that I've tried this week that I've never done before is weighing myself every day. I have read and heard that some people really say by doing that every day, maybe what you did yesterday that wasn't working and what you can do better. I'm not sure how I like that. I'm kind of a penguin, or not a penguin, but whatever, a flamingo. I like to bury my head in the sand and not really look at what's going on. So I have been weighing myself every day this week. I have seen my weight go up and down. In the end, according to Weight Watchers, I had lost a couple pounds, but it was not as exciting to me. It said that I lost 2.8 pounds, and I will not be telling you that every week. But it was not as exciting to me because I saw it going up and down and up and down, and so some days I'd be like, one day I lost 2.2 pounds, and that was so exciting. Another day I gained a pound. Another day I lost zero point 0.4. Another day I gained zero point 0.6. I I don't think that will work for me, but I've heard a lot of people, and I think just because of my personality, but it does, because it does help you say, okay, what did I do yesterday? Why did I just gain a half a pound or something like that? So that would be a tip that I would say, give it a try. Give it a try for a week. I think I'm going to go ahead and do it another week. I'm not sure. I'll decide in the morning, but that would be a trip that I would say. So track and weigh daily. That would be my weight loss tip. As far as an ASL minute, I thought that I would show you the sign for color with spring coming, even though most of the color I've seen here in Ohio is white because of snow. With spring color coming, there's beautiful, a lot of people have been posting on Instagram beautiful pictures of flowers and things. So I will show you the sign for color. So for color, you just take your hands and wiggle them on your chin. Color, color. And that is how you sign color. So color. And I thought about the sign for flower to show you how to sign flower. And to sign flower, you would close your fingers and put your thumb on the inside of your fingers and just go from one side of your nose to another, like you're smelling the flower. Flower, flower. So though that will be our ASL minute. And I'm not going to even take time really for knitting circle because I feel like I have gone, it's already been over an hour again. I've tried not to have such a long podcast. I did want to really quickly, I kind of hinted that the girls had something to tell you. They have not. I've been trying to encourage them to go ahead and podcast, even when I'm not here to record a segment and I can add it in. They have not wanted to do that. They just feel like they don't want a podcast right now. It's kind of off their radar or whatever. But I wanted to let you know that Journey, she did knit a sweater and she did win first place in at her school international convention. This is the 5-hour baby sweater by it's a free pattern on Ravelry. Gail Babel, I think, is the version that we used, or we used the Jiffy baby sweater. So she knit this out of Vanna's Choice. She knit it out of Vanna's Choice. So she won first place. These are the buttons that she picked for it. And she also knit a hat and booties. And I believe the hat and booties are out of Barocco Vintage, which I had left over from my February lady sweater. So these are her booties. She still has all of the judges' notes and everything still sitting on here. I think the total amount of points that she could get was 300, and she had like a 265. The only thing they really took off for was that she didn't include the pattern and different things like that. But she's pretty excited about that, winning first place. And so she's already planning on what she's going to knit next year. And I believe she's going to knit the Multnomah shawl. So we did purchase some yarn yesterday for that. And so she's excited about that. Justice won third place. She did complete her shawlette. And she kind of rushed through it, and she even admits that she rushed through it, but she did complete it. I can't remember the name of the yarn she used, but this is her shawlette, and she got third place for that. So she was really excited, I think, about that. And so she is working on a baby sweater for next year. Hopefully I can get them on here for you and have them share with you their yarn and their ideas for patterns. I know I said I wouldn't do knitting circle, but I'll just kind of purloin from Thrifty 20-minute Thrifty Knitter podcast and just ask a question of the week. And the question that I wanted to ask is what I want to talk about in knitting circle is lately I have been knitting a lot, and I knit anytime I have a chance. I knit at school and different things like that. And I feel like people look at me like I shouldn't be doing it. Like, why are you doing that? Like, you should just be, if you have nothing to do, you should just be sitting there. That's how I feel. I mean, really, just little comments that I get. It's people look at me like I'm wasting time if I'm knitting while I'm waiting, or if I'm knitting. I don't know. They look at me. I've been knitting in public a lot, and they just look at me like I'm wasting time. And I wonder, do you get that? And how do you feel about that? And it doesn't make me want to stop knitting, but it does kind of just make me think. You know, it's better than watching paint dry on the wall, or it's better than if I was sitting in, like, I've been knitting in meetings and different things like that. If I was sitting in a meeting and tapping my fingers or rolling my eyes or yawning or trying to stay awake, they wouldn't like that. But when I'm knitting, I mean, would they comment? But I don't know. It just seems like people look at me when I'm knitting like I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. Do you ever get that? If you do, leave a comment or your thoughts under this episode's thread in Ravelry, or leave a comment on the blog. Also, don't forget our March-April share contest is still open. I said share about your spring knitting. Does your knitting change during the springtime? Do you not knit so many sweaters? Do you knit more spring type things, socks or washcloths or something that doesn't make you hot? I personally would knit just like I would knit in the winter, but some people change. Share whether you change or whether you don't change. And we will have a drawing. The first podcast in May, I will draw 2 names out of the share contest, and you will each win a $7 giftable pattern off of Ravelry. So far, there's not very many entries, so you'll have a good chance to win. I also wanted to say for our knit along, one of the prizes will be up to $10. So if you pick 2 $5 patterns, that's fine, or one $10 pattern, up to $10 worth of patterns off of Ravelry for one winner. Another winner will receive, I was contacted by Knitting's My Bag, and she has graciously donated a bag for the knit along. And so I will either have the bag or a picture of the bag or more information about the bag as time goes on. So those are 2 prizes that we have for the knit along so far. So go ahead and join us in the knit along. Thank you so much for taking time to sit and knit with me. I'm sorry that I ran on. It's just like when you see an old friend, you want to catch up, and time just gets away from you. But if you've lasted this long, thank you so much. Take care, and I will see you probably in about 2 weeks, which will be the middle of April. And before I let go, another thing I had thought about doing is, since I'm only podcasting every 2 weeks, I thought about doing maybe a weekly blog update to let you know what I was doing. Maybe a couple pictures of works in progress, and just, you know, a sentence or 2. Tell me what you think about that. I wanted to broach that subject with you last time, and I got so rushed and ahead of myself I forgot. So tell me what you think about that. If that sounds like something that would be, you know, maybe you don't check the blog. Maybe you just download through Downcast. Just let me know how that sounds to you. So take care.
There's no way I can pick it up from where I am. This is so frustrating. I feel I should just slam it down on the table and walk away madly. 'Cause my stitch